What's up? What's up? Howdy, everyone. We are going to try to do this YouTube streaming thing. I don't know if we end up switching to it from Twitch or not, but that's kind of what this is, to kind of play with it and seeing, if this is something we want to use going forward or not, or maybe we do it for finding paths, maybe do it for something else, maybe we do it for, some things and not others. I don't know yet. But yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of Shifting Sands prep today. So this is going to be a rather short stream as I'm testing things out. And I apologize, my dogs are going crazy in the background. If it's noise is a problem, let me know and I will try to address that. But one moment. All right, I'm back. So I think to start, there's kind of like three potential things I want to tackle in this stream. The first one is for certain. I want to start creating some companions and using the new companion rules that I've devised. And if we have time, I would like to go into figuring out faction sheets. So if we get into that, I'll explain what those are and how they work. But generally speaking, they're going to be basically building stat blocks for various factions and organizations within the setting. And then maybe, highly doubtful I'll have time to do this, but maybe we'll get into some work on some lore that hasn't been established yet in the lands of Avarilia. So let's start with this first one here. So I haven't released it on the website yet, though I've mentioned it in streams several times that we do have some what we call follower companion rules in the works. They're mostly finalized at this point. The blog post is basically ready. I need to make an example follower stat block for the blog post. And I figured, and rather than just making a bespoke one just for that blog post, I just use one of the ones we come up with here. And yeah, so what we're gonna do is work on those to start. I think I have three ideas for followers to start with. One of them I actually already had created back in an earlier draft of the rules. However, the players never got around to actually encountering. Well, they encountered him, but they subsequently killed him because players do what players do. Am I right? So yeah, so that companion, I believe I actually, let's see here. I believe I actually deleted him. No, I didn't. He's right here, Norg. Cool. So we can kind of like revise that guy and maybe repurpose him a bit. But I guess I should mention this is Foundry. If you're not familiar with Foundry, it's kind of like it's a virtual tabletop, sort of like Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, but it's kind of the consensus within the greater Pathfinder 2e community that Foundry has the best support for the system. So we do use it. We use it through a service called forgevtt.com, which is basic. So Foundry by itself is you buy it once and you can host any game, as many games you want. Only the GM needs to buy it, so players don't need to pay for it. But you do need to self-host it. That means like running your own server and whatnot. And while software engineering is my day job and I could do that, I really don't have the desire to mess with that in my free time. So forgevtt.com is basically an affiliated service with the Foundry developers who there's one of many of these services that basically host Foundry for you and provide you a really convenient dashboard and whatnot to run as many games as you want and everything. So it's super convenient. It does cost. It's a subscription-based service. There's various tiers that cost different amounts of money that offer different features, but it's super convenient. If you don't, if you want to use Foundry and don't really want to dive into the rabbit hole of self-hosting and all that stuff, it's a really good alternative in my opinion. So yeah, this is Foundry. Let's see. So I guess to start, let's take a look at the companion I had originally developed. Oops, that's not it. So Norg here. So the companion rules I have are fairly straightforward. I wanted to make them as streamlined and as easy to use as possible with using as many familiar things that players are already familiar with. In Pathfinder 2e, there are already a number of different kinds of companions, and all of them, for the most part, work in similar fashion. There's animal companions, there's undead minions, there's familiars, there's all that kind of stuff, and they basically all use a regular NPC stat block, just like any monster or enemy creature would use. So we use this as well, and we actually use the encounter building rules from the creature building rules from the Game Mastery Guide, the official Game Mastery Guide. For the most part, there are some exceptions though. Let me pull up the actual thing here. You aren't going to be able to see this because it's on a different browser window. But basically, the levels and everything work basically the same way. The only thing is that if the creature starts at lower than level 1, then they gain. Their stats are updated at level 1. Otherwise, they're updated every 5 levels. So level 5, level 10. Oh, my mic seems low, huh? Okay. Wonder why that is. Turn it up a bit. How's that, Jack? QT20? Is that any better? Should I turn it all the way up? Seems a little high because it's going in the red. Yes? No? I'll go with that for now. Let me know if it's still too low and I'll adjust it accordingly. So you're gonna basically level it up or readjust its stats every 5 levels, and every time you do it, it's going to use the same tables and whatnot from the Game Mastery Guide for determining statistics. The exceptions here are armor class and weapon damage. I thought it was extremely important to be able to. I have you at like higher volume than usual. Okay, that's weird. I don't have anything different than when we're doing the Finding Paths stream, so I'll have to look into that after the stream. But so yeah, armor class, since I thought it was extremely important to be able to equip or give equipment to your follower companions so that you can stat or build them up the way you want, like you would in any other like video game, or for instance, right, whether you're playing Elder Scrolls or whatever, you can typically give them various equipment that affects their stats. However, the normal creature creation rules in the Game Mastery Guide don't account for this, because the rules were originally written for monster creatures or enemy creatures, and those are typically like one and done, right? They don't typically grow and change over time. So their equipment they have is built into the stats rather than like their stats changing based on what they have equipped. So really the only things that are really important there are the armor class and the weapon damage. And the way these work is armor class is calculated the same way you would for a player character. They need to follow the same rules for donning and doffing armor. They have the same armor check penalties that would have come from whatever the armor they're wearing, etc. And weapon damage, similarly, is also just based on whatever weapon they're using. It uses that damage die, and if they have an ability that lets them use like their dexterity mod, they will. Otherwise, they won't, etc. Just like a player character would. And also, unarmed attack damage is calculated just as it would for player characters as well. So it's based on their strength and all that jazz. The only other thing to really consider is abilities, and this was actually a sticking point from when I was creating follower companions, in that I wanted them to be able to grow in their abilities over time, but I didn't want them to just be feat based like player characters are, because one of my overall goals with follower companions is that I want them to be easy to use and run, and not convoluted or take up too much time at the table to kind of the update and everything. So that's kind of one of the reasons we're using the NPC stat blocks. That's why we're using the streamlined stats and whatnot. So for abilities, I thought of it and I'm like, well, the bestiaries and the Game Mastery Guide and all that stuff presents a number of creature stat blocks, and there's in the bestiaries there's like a number of existing quote unquote monster abilities. Just that it presents to you and you can kind of pick and choose from. So I kind of, just to make it simple, I just said, you know what, every 5 levels when you update their statistics, you would also just add an ability if you so choose, right? And you would either pick from one of those abilities that makes sense from the bestiaries or whatever, or any other, splat books that you have at your disposal, or you create your own, right? There's nothing saying that they have to be out of a rule book somewhere. Maybe if you're building a human creature or an elf or something that's based on a specific player character class, you might repurpose one of the feats or abilities of that class into a monster or a creature ability that the follower companion would have. One other thing to keep in mind is that the way the balance and math of Pathfinder 2e works is that a non-player character, an NPC, with the creature building rules from the Game Master Guide, an NPC that is 2 levels below a player character is roughly equivalent to the level of that player character. So if you're a level 3 player character, right? A level 1 NPC will be about the same power level as that level 3 player character. And that's just the way the encounter building rules are designed, so the creature building rules are built to facilitate that. I considered when I was creating these rules kind of adjusting the building rules instead and just making like just you always build an NPC around the same level as the player characters. But I thought that would be more work, and it's just another thing that GMs would need to learn, and they're already familiar with the tables and whatnot from the Game Mastery Guide. So I thought that this was a better approach. So if you're a GM and you're using these follower companion rules, try to consider your players' levels or the average party level. Keep in mind your players might be slightly different levels, so try to build follower companions that are around 2 levels below your average party level of your players. So with that, all that said, all that banter out of the way, let's get into actually building one of these characters. So as I mentioned, I have one here that I built a long time ago using an earlier iteration of these rules. It was built using the core rules. Actually, I think this might have actually been built. Let's see here. Yeah, this was okay. I take that back. This has been updated, so this guy's actually good. I don't need to adjust him. The only thing I might do is he's level 0 right now, and most of the characters that are in my Shifting Sands game, which are which is a West Marches style game. So there's a various number of characters that not all play every session. The rough average level is about level 3 of these, or 2 or 3 of these characters. So I might want to. I think I'm going to actually keep this guy where he's at, because I'll probably save him for introduction during maybe some lower level characters. If some new players come in and they want play a session, at that point the average level will be around 1 or 2, so keeping it at level 0 is probably all right there. So I'm gonna leave him as he is, and I will change his name though. So let's do this here. Fantasy name. Let's try to drag this guy up here if it'll let me. That didn't work. So yeah, I use Fantasy Name Generator a lot for generating names. For orcs, they're a little tough because there's various kinds of orcs. There's Tolkien-esque orcs, there's World of Warcraft orcs, etc. For orcs, I tend to lead towards more Tolkien-esque or Dungeons and Dragons style orcs. I think there's actually in this just a straight up orc name generator. Yeah, I think this is the one I used before. And this is a male orc, so I'm gonna start getting some male names here. And I just kind of go through here and pick something that looks and sounds good to me. For orcs, I typically like shorter names and easier to pronounce. I feel like if they get complex, like Zugorf, I think that this sounds too try hard for me. So something like Ugrin is a good name, I think. It's easy to say, it's short, it's simple, it's recognizably orcish, so we'll go with that. All right, so we'll leave that guy as he is. So another one I wanted to create, I do want to create an automaton, but I don't really want to fiddle with pulling up or going and finding my book or pulling up the PDF right now for the automaton ancestry. And I don't think there's any good examples of automaton monsters out there. So that means I would have to sit down and actually create abilities. And I think it's a little too much for the stream, so I'm going to do that one offline. But I do want to create a sort of treasure hunter like follower companion, so more of a roguish individual. And I think I'm gonna make this one human, I believe. I think I have like an overall vision in my head of kind of, it's gonna be a woman. And I don't know if you've ever played like Final Fantasy 11 online, but there's a character in there named Leon or Lion, or however you pronounce her name. And she's kind of the vibe I'm going for with this. Very like wild and carefree, kind of like Yuffie in Final Fantasy 7, that kind of vibe. So I'm gonna go with that. So let's I believe actually one of the nice things about Foundry is all the stuff in Pathfinder 2e of any book, even like adventure paths, are in the compendium. So if I go here, I think there's like monster or bestiary ability glossary. There's creature family ability glossary. I don't know what the difference between the two is. One other thing you might do to kind of jumpstart yourself is if you look at the like it's like in the Game Mastery Guide, there's an NPC gallery, and these are more humanoid NPCs, but they're just like pre-statted. So what you can kind of do to kind of get a vibe for abilities and general stats is kind of look like there's a dancer here, which is kind of cool. Let's see what we got here. Is there like there's a Tomb Raider? What we got for Tomb Raider? They got a Kukri, which is dope. Actually, this is kind of what I'm going for here. So I was actually planning to use a Kukri, given the setting. It's in a it's in a desert, more Middle Eastern inspired setting. And I think a Kukri kind of goes well with that. So I was actually thinking dual wielding Kukris, but a hand crossbow is kind of cool too. Trick attack is interesting. Oops, that's the wrong button. The Tomb Raider musters their guile to attempt a clever attack that catches the foe unprepared. The Tomb Raider chooses one of their weapons. The next attack with that weapon deals an extra 2d6 precision damage. So it's basically like sneak attack, but a creature ability form of it. Now this is a creature level 5, which is something to note. Which is too high level for what I'm going for. So what is what's this guy? Hazard spotter. The Tomb Raider automatically attempts a secret perception check to notice a hazard when they're within 10 feet of the hazard. So looking at this trick attack, the thing that concerns me is 2d6 is a lot for a level, like a level 1 creature, which is what I'm going for, right? So if you look at like the sneak attack damage for a rogue player character, it's 1d6 extra, if I remember correctly, I believe. Let's double check that here. Oops, wrong thing. Sneak attack. Yeah, 1d6 precision damage. So if I use this trick attack verbatim, it would be too much. So the question is there a sneak attack that's like a lower level? I bet that's what this is. Yeah, so there's sneak attack here too that is more what we want. So we're probably going to use that, and it'll just be 1d6 to start. And then maybe at level 5, we go up to trick attack, right? The cool thing about trick attack is that in addition, the Tomb Raider can interact to draw the weapon or to reload it if they choose the hand crossbow. So that's kind of cool. Dogs. So yeah, we'll do sneak attack, I think. And I do like typically. So typically at level 1, I'd like to have so if the creature's below level 1, I'd want to have no abilities because it's kind of like a base level creature that isn't anything special. At level 1, I'd like a creature to have 1 ability, and at level 2 or at level 5, I like them to have 2 abilities. Level 10, I like them to have 3 abilities, etc. So I mean, as a GM, you can kind of use your own discretion here and give them so many abilities you want, but that's kind of the progression that I tend to lead towards. So what I may do, since it's going to be level 1 creature, I may not give them sneak attack or trick attack. I may just give them hazard spotter or something of the like. The Tomb Raider automatically attempts a secret perception check to notice a hazard when they are within. So this is basically the trap finder feat, right? Or whatever it's called. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that vibe. That's more like that is what a treasure hunter would have, right? They would more have that than something like trick attack in their early career. So let's do that. Let's create a new NPC here. So I don't want to put it in the companions thing because if I recall correctly, actually, yeah, I think this is visible to all the players, and they haven't met these people yet. So I'm actually gonna create a new folder here and call it followers. I will create a new actor here. This is going to be a non-player character. This is confusing because familiar sheet is something very different and doesn't work the way we want. So we want to actually use a non-player character here. And a name. What are we gonna name this? Chat, got any ideas for names for a human woman? This is probably gonna be. I haven't decided like what if she's gonna be like. Probably gonna be more Middle Eastern inspired, maybe. I don't know yet. I haven't thought of her background and personality yet, so maybe we'll hold off on the name till we figure that out. But we'll just call her Human F. Treasure Hunter for now. We'll name her later. And we are going to. Oh, where'd my? Did I close it? What was it called? What was the name of that ability? Hazard spotter. Maybe under. Did I close it again? No, I didn't. It's right here. Maybe it's under here. Hold on. Huh. That's interesting. That is very, very interesting. Why isn't this opening? Weird. Anyway, huh. I wonder if I'm. This doesn't seem like all of the abilities either. That's it. That's weird. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We will just do. Actually, to make this easier in the future, I will. I believe I already have a compendium created for Shifting Sands. Oh, I remember how this works. Okay. So you have to do like this. Shifting sands, creature of. And it is a, oh boy, I forget. In, um, okay, so it's considered an item in Foundry parlance, which I know is confusing, but,